turned it on. We're recording.
All right, so how about let's do short status reports, and if there's anything we need to talk about, we could talk about it, and then and Steve, do you want to take just brief notes on it that you can post? You did a good job on that the other day. Chris, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so Phosphor JS updates. Phosphor core is out. It's published. It's on npm. Been for a while. So there are versions from that you can now install. So we're using that from Phosphor UI. Phosphor UI is not yet published. Got a few more widgets to be done. Most of them are in. I finished menu a couple days ago. Working on menu bar now. That's might not be done today, but close to being done. And that leaves command palette and doc panel to bring over. And then that should be done and publishable to the point where we can use it in Phosphide and get Phosphide running on all of the new stuff. Once we have that done, we can then deprecate all the old repos and kind of push them, sweep them under the rug. Debating whether or not I want to keep the GitHub repos around. We can deprecate the npm packages and they'll still work, so they won't break anybody's builds. I'm debating whether or not we want to keep the repos around in the GitHub org, just because there's so much visual clutter when you visit the Phosphor.js org with them there. I think it might actually be better to either remove them or take the code that's in them and put them in like some other deprecated repo on GitHub, just so that the code is there if people want to look at it, but to just reduce the visual clutter in the org. So that's that status. Again, I'm going to be out probably the second half of next week for my move, and all the driving and stuff that I have to do for that. So it'll be a short week for me next week.
Dave, you're next on my screen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so the message hook stuff's what I've been on for the last kind of week or so. There's an open PR on IPyKernel and IPyWidgets. Both are required to see the new message. I've just seen a couple of comments from Jason on it, so I'll be tidying them up, and that's basically it for the message hook stuff. The next kind of patch of work for that is going to be integrating RenderMine with it, so that you can do all this nice sort of recursively nested sort of widget area stuff. But at the moment, it's just kind of hard coding text output, ready for when the RenderMine stuff's there. So that's it.
Great. Darian, Darian dropped off my screen.
Oh, do other people see me?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Weird. Okay, now you're there, but you replaced Chris. I don't know what's going on with.
Very shuffle.
Okay.
So this week I got the console behavior for history working, and it seems pretty much done actually in terms of that feature. So people playing around with it and testing it would be great, because I'm sure there's stuff I've missed, but everything obvious seems to be taken care of. Steve helped a lot with that, and some of the stuff involved in that is actually being used elsewhere, like this cursor position stuff, and Steve will talk about that. The other thing is I just spent a few hours today working on getting the IPyWidgets review comments fixed. So there's an outstanding PR with each of the things that I thought should be addressed, and I wrote a fairly long comment to explain my thinking behind it. So you might want to take a look at that as well. And that's it. I guess I want to, the next thing I want to do with console is tooltips. That's another one of the two big remaining features that the Web 1 doesn't have yet. The other one being pager stuff, changing the mode. So yeah, that's where I am.
Great. Steve?
Okay. Spent a lot of time this past week working on unit tests for things like accepting and rejecting dialogues was pretty difficult to get set up, but now that that's there, I can test the more interactive parts of Phosphor UI or Jupyter.js UI and Jupyter.js Notebook. Created mock implementations of kernel, session, and contents manager, so we don't have to spin up a whole server to test basic functionality that use those things. To include adding a test for execution in the notebook. As a result of that, as Darian alluded to, we added cursor position to the notebook model so that we could tell where within the text the cursor is, so that the reason I needed it was for cell splitting, that behavior. So that shortcut and behavior now exists, and Darian gets to use it for the tooltip next, which will be the tooltip will be applicable to both the notebook and the console. And also looking more and talking more about notebook execution models and plugins that use the notebook execution and the widget, how those will be instantiated and registered. That'll probably follow on discussion this afternoon about how we want to handle that. And this morning I did some auditing of how focus is handled and markdown cell rendering as you move in and out of command and edit mode, and compared it to the existing notebook and made sure that the behaviors matched up. So that is a lot cleaner now, a lot less fiddling with focus and blur events, and it's more taking the appropriate action based on user intent and the actual focus and click and double click events and changes to the model, so we don't get into these loop cycles. And that's about it. Just been helping Darren with the various aspects of the console as well.
Awesome. And I've been working on figuring out how execution and models and everything work with Steve and Chris, and reviewing the IPyWidgets stuff with Sylvan, and now I'm working on the reviewing of the output widget stuff. Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I know there was some dialogue on Gitter about the test process and the release process. So I think, over the next couple months, that will be something we'll want to refine and just have a little more structure around, so we have more confidence in the releases. They don't break as quickly or easily. But I'm still gearing up, so I don't want to jump in and start swirling before I really know what the issues are.
Yeah, I think the thing on Gitter was the releases of the IPyWidget stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There were some fat finger type of things that happened, and so the IPyWidgets releases were broken and then needed to be fixed right away and stuff. Yeah, but we had discussions about how to better release things so that more of the process is automated.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so that wasn't affecting Jupyter Lab. That was with the IPyWidgets repo. But I agree, project-wide, that's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, I'd like some, consistency across the project and how we do things. I realize like parts of the project have different, release cycles, and some stuff's going to iterate faster, but I'd like some consistency across the board, just so we have a bit of a formula, and everybody kind of expects the same sort of cycles.
Sure, that makes sense.
Or later. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I missed one of the things you said you worked on with Sylvan.
Oh, we did a lot of review of the widgets, particularly the widget 6.x branch, merging into master. So the widgets are officially on 6x now, and 5x is a branch. And then we gave Darian a lot of little things here and there. And I saw your post, Darian. We're going to get back to you about that. All right. Is there anything else? Okay. I guess, Jamie, you can stop the recording and